welcome to episode number 86 of Cheese, Steaks, and Controllers, presented by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, and iHeartRadio. Coming at you from Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, FoxPHLGambler.com, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. That's how this voice is reaching your ears right now. My name is Jason Fidelli. I am an esports and gaming insider for Fox PHL The Gambler. And folks, we have an interesting week ahead for you. We got a brand new Pokemon game that we're going to dive into a little bit, everything we know about that so far. We're going to get into the month of March, lots of very big releases happening in the month of March. And then we're going to talk about some weird esports related things from two prominent companies that caused controversies for two different reasons. But before I get into the 6 and 60 seconds, obviously there is something going on in the world right now that's a little more important than the video games that I love to talk about. And as I said last week, it's sort of weird to come on and produce this show and talk about these quote-unquote trivial things that we talk about every single week, being video games and esports. In the grand scheme of things, obviously they're not trivial if it's something that you're passionate about, like I am. But in the grand spectrum of the world, I recognize that video games and esports do not hold a very significant importance when in comparison to world events, particularly in Eastern Europe. The Ukraine-Russia issue is a tough one. I have been monitoring it every single day. I've seen some very, very disheartening things, some very heartening things, everything in the middle, and it's just been devastating to watch in every sense of the word. I do not agree with the military campaign against Ukraine at all. I do not think they deserve it. I think it's all made up, and I think Russia's kind of overstepping their bounds. I want to make my position very clear here. I do not support Russia at all. I am 100% fully Ukraine. I support EA, who pulled Russia and Belarusian teams from their hockey and soccer games. I support CD Projekt Red, who has stopped all sales in those two countries, which I think made up 5% of their sales and 3% of goodoldgames.com sales. So a pretty decent chunk. All things considered. Doesn't sound like much, but it actually is. I support GSC, the developer of the upcoming Stalker 2, which was pushed back till December from April recently, but is now put on a bit of a permanent hiatus because of their office being relocated in Kiev, right there in the capital of Ukraine. So they obviously have more important things to be worrying about right now than Stalker 2. And I'm hoping that this conflict is ended soon. I'm hoping that it's ended as peacefully as possible. I mean, obviously ending peacefully is already out the window, considering what has happened so far. But I just wanted to take some time at the beginning of the episode here to state that I am praying for and supporting the people of Ukraine, that they're, what's happening to them is not good. It's heinous. Honestly, it's heinous. It's awful. And I know I'm not supposed to get very political. I try not to get too political on this show. I try to keep it as light and fun as possible, unless things, get under my skin. But I feel like this needs to be said. Last week I felt really weird doing the show. This week I feel a little weird doing the show as well. But it's a serious thing. It's a serious matter, and I feel like I just wanted to say my piece. That's a very little piece. I acknowledge that. My words do not hold as much weight as some other people in the world, but I figure every little bit of support helps, whether it's vocal, financial, what have you, and make your voices heard, make your voices known that this is not okay, and that these people need to be left alone. They haven't done anything. They haven't done anything to deserve this, and it needs to be finished as soon as possible. And with that, there's no real easy way to transition to the 6 and 60 seconds, so we're just going to do that. Here are the headlines of the week, courtesy of the 6 in 60 seconds. Overwatch League reportedly hires Brad Ross, a former player and NBA 2K League operations staff, as the new operation lead. Call of Duty League announces a new Rookie of the Year award to be given out at the end of the season. New State Mobile, formerly PUBG New State, unveils a new North American tournament with a $250,000 prize pool and first qualifiers beginning March 10th. Meanwhile, the Pokemon Company announces Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the 9th generation of core Pokemon games, coming to the Nintendo Switch in late 2022. GSC Game World puts Stalker 2 development on the sidelines amidst ongoing Ukraine conflict. And finally, Epic Games announces its latest acquisition, the online music platform Bandcamp. Those are your 6 in 60 seconds. Yes, folks, those are your 6 in 60 seconds for the week. Now we are going to move straight ahead into our first topic of the evening, and that is some weirdness happening in esports. 2 companies in particular decided they were going to, shake things up a little bit when it comes to their esports, and in both situations, I'm going to look up one of the tweets here now, make sure I get it right. In both situations, they kind of They shook the tree a little bit in a way that I don't think they expected the tree to shake. Well, one of them might have expected it, and I honestly don't think they care, which is part of the problem. But I'm going to start with Capcom Fighters. Capcom Pro Tour decided to release on February 28th, so Monday, released some new community licensing agreements for running events and tournaments using Street Fighter V Champion Edition. Whole big list of rules and regulations they want followed, including how much prize money you can give away as a maximum, how many players minimum you need, things like a smaller tournament is not able to charge for spectators. If you're just going in to spectate, you have to be allowed to be free, and a bunch of other rules. And it immediately set the fighting game community ablaze with criticism. Some of it is founded, most of it is founded really, because it sounds like it's really hampering the smaller tournaments that want to organize Street Fighter V events like this to celebrate the game and play the game, but now are not quite able to do that because of what is going on with these guidelines. And also, we're still not entirely sure how it affects bigger tournaments like Combo Breaker, which is about to start giving its players, or is already taking registrations for its players, like Evo itself, which we'll get into something different about Evo. Like my local tournaments, Big E Gaming. I love Big E Gaming around here. Will they be able to run Street Fighter tournaments from now on? One of the prominent FGC voices that came out is a guy named David Graham, also known as Ultra David. He is a copyright and licensing lawyer and is prominent in the fighting game community, doing casting and other stuff like that. And he has given his take on his blog at dpgatlaw.com, just talking about the licensing structure and what he thinks this is, and I highly suggest you go to that blog and read it. It is a fascinating read that gets into the nuances of what this thing is. But if I could, I'm just going to summarize the end of his piece here that gets into what his overall stance is, having read the entire guideline. He says, in general, I'm wary of video game rights holders taking on too much power from the communities and industries that spring up around their games. My take on the history of esports is that it's been full of passionate communities who do the work to create an industry that then gets co-opted by rights holders once it's economically valuable, and if that's what's going on here, I'm against it. But Capcom hasn't been nearly as predatory and controlling as rights holders like Blizzard and Riot. Its Capcom Pro Tour has long worked with existing community events and broadcasters and provided significant pot bonuses that have helped bring more players and viewers to events. If there are problems in its initial implementation of these structures, I hope it will remain open-minded and make changes to solve them. I also hope it understands that although its license may be similar to Blizzard and Riot, the scene for its games is very different, and that is true. The FGC is a multi-game community in which no one rights holders can exercise total control of events, players, or any other aspect of the ecosystem. What would happen if one of the rights holders tried to overplay its hand? I hope we won't need to find out. Honestly, I think the answer to that is that game doesn't get included, and that particular game's fan base or following goes into the toilet. because all the local tournaments have to say, all the grassroots events have to say is, all right, we're not going to cover you. We're not going to have your game. We'll play other fighting games that respect us and do it and help us out with this. And then that's the end of Street Fighter V and potentially Street Fighter VI, because you have to assume that these rules are only put into place to set the precedent for when 6 comes out, that this will be what they do with Street Fighter VI as well. Now, I, having read this and reading Ultra David's opinion and all this other stuff, it sounds to me like this is more focused on independent small-time tournaments, which is pretty predatory, if you ask me. The bigger tournaments like Evo and Combo Breaker and stuff like that, I feel like we'll find a way to, as Ultra David mentions, partner with the Capcom Pro Tour, become part of the Capcom Pro Tour, and then once they're an actual supported Capcom Pro Tour event, prize pools can go up, and player counts can go up, and all the things that Capcom wants will go up. But then it becomes who gets selected as a Capcom Pro Tour stop and who doesn't, who gets left out and who gets to support it. And that is, it's just creating more hurdles than it needs to be honest. I feel like they're creating rules where they didn't need to be any. Everything that was happening so far in the fighting game scene, at least as far as I knew, made sense. They're fixing something that isn't broken, and I don't know. I think it's going to take some time to see how it plays out, but at the moment, I am not confident in how that play out is going to look. I think that this is going to cause more headaches than it's worth, and it could, as Ultra David alludes to, lead to a situation where Street Fighter, one of the most iconic fighting games of all time, the Beatles of fighting games, as I called it with Sean Brace on his show, The Daily Ticket, earlier today, is left out, is not included in any tournaments anymore, because these rules are so restrictive, whether they meant to be or not. So I will be keeping an eye on the implementation here. I'm curious if local tournaments will keep featuring Street Fighter V or drop it entirely. And then if they drop it entirely, will they pick up 6 when that comes out with an understandable fear, or despite an understandable fear, that these rules could apply there too? It's an interesting conversation, I feel like. But Capcom did respond to the backlash and said, yesterday we published the new Street Fighter V community license agreement for both the Americas and EMEA. Our aim was to make running an event with Street Fighter V easier. When tournament organizers, have contacted Capcom about running community events with Street Fighter V in the past, the approval process has always taken a lot of time. We want to make the rules clear and allow for much faster approvals, but we're also keen to build tighter relationships with TOs and to encourage safe spaces to play the game. Thank you to everyone who has sent us feedback thus far on the new agreement. We are reviewing it with the wider Capcom team, and we'll follow up with more updates soon. So the fact they even put that out the next day is good. Will anything come of it? I don't know, but it's a step, I suppose. At least they acknowledge that they're listening. They may try and fix this, whatever. The same cannot be said, and here's where my ire really is coming from here. Capcom at least is trying to, it may be clumsy, but it is trying to create a new established esports environment for itself. And if you go through the rules of the agreement, you'll see things like no excessive swearing, no cyberbullying, and things like that. And then, of course, you find the people on social media who have a problem with those rules. Which, you know, if you have a problem with those things, you may be the problem. But that's just me. Anyway, at least they're participating. At least they're, doing what they need to do for the competitive scene to cultivate it, to bring it up, to make it better. The same, unfortunately, cannot be said for Nintendo. And this news kills me. Absolutely cuts me to the core. Because it involves one of my favorite gaming franchises of all time. And it just makes me sad. So, EVO, the biggest fighting game tournament in the world, getting ready to come back to live events for the first time since the pandemic started. EVO 2022 will be live in Las Vegas. They've announced the kickoff show March 8th at 5 p.m. to let us know when and what and all the other things that we need to know about the event this year. Very excited to see what goes on there, but when making this announcement, they made the announcement last Friday. So it was last Thursday, I think, right before I started recording. Oh no, it was last Saturday. It was Saturday, excuse me. It was Saturday the 26th. So it was the day after I posted episode number 85. They posted a graphic of the 2019 Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Champion holding his trophy. I believe it was MK Leo. That said, please join us March 8th at 5 p.m. PST, which is 8 p.m. Eastern, on twitch.tv/Evo for the Evo 2022 announcement show. While we're thankful for all the amazing games joining us later this year in Las Vegas, we want to let you know in advance that Super Smash Bros. Will not be making a return appearance. Since 2007, we've seen historic Super Smash Bros. Moments created at Evo's events. We are saddened that Nintendo has chosen not to continue that legacy with us this year. In the future, we hope to once again celebrate the Super Smash Bros. Community alongside them. And I cannot believe we are doing this again. Nintendo tried this nonsense in mid 2000s or late 2000s. In that 2007 timeframe, they tried to pull Melee out of Evo because Brawl was new, and Brawl was, for the most part, lesser than Melee, according to the Grand Smash Brothers community. Melee continues to be one of the most successful competitive games there is out there. Ultimate just wrapped up development. You created a game with 79 roster characters from all over gaming, an absolute smorgasbord, who's who in this roster. And you decide that the first time there is a live event, you're pulling your support. Now, there are multiple reasons why people think that. They think it could be they want to see, maybe they're just sitting out a year and they're seeing how the new PlayStation run Evo looks. Let's not forget PlayStation bought Evo just around this time last year, if not before, if not a little bit before. Maybe they're not coming back ever because Sony owns Evo now and they don't, dabble with the enemy unless there's a partnership involved. See Super Smash Bros. Having Banjo, Kazooie, and Minecraft Steve. Or they are just focused on the Super Smash Bros. Tour that they announced themselves with Panda Global, who will be running that tournament for them, which is fine. I'm fine with that. If you want to focus on your own tournament, great. But there is no reason why you could not be involved in this tournament and make it part of your tour, i.e., as we talked about, the Capcom Pro Tour usually makes Evo one of its major events. The Tekken World Tour makes the Tekken 7 Evo tournament one of its major events. Dragon Ball FighterZ Tour did the same thing, or the World Championships did the same thing. Evo was worth a ton of points for the winner of that. Why can't Nintendo make the same partnership? Do we not think Panda would not agree to that? Of course they would. Panda and Evo have partnered in the past, I believe, so they are not foreign to each other. This decision comes from a lack of fundamental understanding of esports in general on Nintendo's part that I cannot believe we are still dealing with after all this time. And what makes it so disappointing, is the total number of players that signed up for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's only turn in Evo. Evo 2019 will go down in history for now as the only Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Evo tournament. That tournament alone had 3,492 entrants, beating the second highest tournament, Street Fighter V, by over 1,500 entrants. What about that says to Nintendo, we're not coming back? It makes no sense to me that they would not jump at the opportunity to foster that sort of tournament again. You think that a game that added Sora from Kingdom Hearts, one of the most highly requested characters in Smash Bros. History, couldn't beat that number if you allowed it to? It makes no sense to me that they would leave that money on the table by not partnering with Evo, by not making it part of the Smash World Tour or whatever they're calling it with Panda Global. Just be a part of it. Let these people have a place to try and play. 3,400 entrants is absolutely bonkers. The most any single Evo tournament's ever had. And each of them are paying a fee. Say it's $10. That's $34,000 for one weekend. What are you doing, Nintendo? This, forget about the past, only focus on the games that are coming out right now, is absurd. If you want to moonlight Super Smash Bros. Melee and leave that to the grassroots, fine. That makes sense. The game is over 20 years old at this point, as popular as it still is. But Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, a game that was a major part of your brand new console's lineup in its second holiday season ever, in December 7th, 2018, when it launched. The fact that you are just now abandoning it after not even a year after the final content was added is absolutely mind-blowing to me. And I hope that someone at Nintendo gets the message and decides to change their tune and allow Super Smash Bros. Ultimate to start being played at these big tournaments, or else I don't know about the success of the Panda Tour. If Nintendo tries to, for lack of a better term, sterilize the Smash Bros. Ultimate tournament scene, I don't know how many people you're going to get. I really don't. I read that post on Saturday from Evo, and I could not believe what I was reading. I was hoping it was fake. Unfortunately, it wasn't. And Smash Brothers and Nintendo are leaving nearly 3,500 entrants out in the cold. That, to me, is unacceptable. Nintendo needs to stop with this not anti-esports. It's just a lack of understanding, I think. I think there's just a lack of understanding on Nintendo's part of what esports can be and how esports can work. And the fact that the best-selling fighting game of all time now cannot be allowed to be at the biggest tournament as far as branding and name recognition is concerned in the world pisses me off. It really does. As an avid fighting game community fan and fighting game fan and Smash Brothers fan, it just kills me. And I hope that something happens that they reconsider in the future. Coming up next segment of Cheesesteaks and Controllers, we're going to talk about something a little happier having to do with Nintendo. Let's get into Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and the kind of things I am looking for in that surprise 9th generation. Don't go away. Damn it, Nintendo. All right, welcome back to Cheesesteaks and Controllers, episode number 86. I've calmed myself down. I've done my breathing exercises. I'm not going to be angry about Super Smash Bros. Anymore. I promise. We can move on now to the next topic, a happy topic when it comes to Nintendo. Luckily for them, they're not going to get, bull rushed twice in this episode. Let's talk about the Pokemon Presents from this past Sunday. A weird day to have a Pokemon presentation, a Sunday, but February 27th is the anniversary of when Red and Green, what we know as Pokemon Red and Blue, launched in Japan February 27th of the year 1996. So the series celebrates that day every year with a big news dump where it gives us new information on what's coming out and updates and things like that. This year was no different. 9 a.m. Eastern for us here in Philadelphia. On Sunday the 27th, we got some new information about all things Pokemon. We got things like Shaman and Oak's Letter being activated in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Going to work the exact same way as it did on the DS. You'll have Oak's Letter as a mystery gift. You'll take that letter to where he tells you to go, the Stone Tablet on Route 224, and then you can get Shaman, which is a mythical Pokemon that you can catch just there. Another big one was Pokemon Go adding the 7th generation of Pokemon from Sun and Moon to the game starting on March the 1st, so that's happening now. Pokemon Legends Arceus, the newer game, just came out January 28th, is doing a new software update called Daybreak, which will have trainers investigating mysterious mass outbreaks of Pokemon that are popping up all over the region. New Wardens, new legendary Pokemon, stuff like that added there. But the big one, the biggest announcement from the show was the surprise reveal of the 9th generation of Pokemon. So we had red, blue, and then yellow. We had gold, silver, and then crystal. We had, ruby, sapphire, and emerald. And then we had, on the DS, we had uh, diamond and pearl and platinum. We had black and white, and then we had black 2 and white 2, the first ever sequels. We also had, or we didn't have it yet. I don't. We also had fire red, leaf green on Game Boy Advance, but I'm just talking about actual generations here. So then Generation 5 was black and white and black 2 and white 2. Generation 6 was X and Y, which came out on the 3DS, the first introduction to the 3DS as well. Generation 7, Sun and Moon, the Alola region, as mentioned for Pokemon Go. And then Generation 8 was Sword and Shield, the first for the Switch, the most recent core Pokemon game that came out in 2019. And now, late 2022 has been confirmed, Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, which saw a 3.5-minute trailer debut showing off some of the towns we'll be in, some of the world that we'll be exploring through, and 3 brand new creatures, the 3 starting Pokemon from the region, as is tradition. There was 1 grass-type starter, 1 fire-type starter, and 1 water-type starter. The grass is called Sprigatito. Sprigatito is a grass cat. Fuecoco is the fire Pokemon, is a fire croc. And then Quaxley is a duckling. So we have Sprigatito, Fuecoco, and Quaxley. In this house, we stand Quaxley. But all 3 of them are probably very, very cool. And I look forward to see their other evolutions as time goes on. But the big story for me, as far as Scarlet and Violet go, is the promise of a seamless open world. Not like how Sword and Shield had loading between towns, but also an open wild area. Not like Arceus, which takes more of a Monster Hunter approach, where when you go to leave the village, you pick one of the regions you're going to, and you stay in that region for that time. This is, according to the official press release, which I will read in a second. This is something brand new, something different, something a little more Breath of the Wild or Elden Ring or one of those types of games. So what the official press release says is, developed by Game Freak Incorporated, Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet take a new evolutionary step in the Pokemon main series. Trainers can explore an open world where various towns with no borders blend seamlessly into the wilderness. Pokemon can be seen everywhere in this wide open world, in the skies, in the sea, and on the streets. As a main character, trainers will jump into the world of Scarlet and Violet to begin their adventure. Will they have a different outfit depending on which game they're playing, and trainers will then choose between Sprigatito, Fuecoco, and Quaxley to be their first partner Pokemon before setting off on their journey. So, it's only a couple of paragraphs, but there is a lot to glean from this. The first, and like I said, the biggest one, the one I'm going to spend the most time on, is the open world. If it is truly seamless open world, and if I take one step, I'm in a city, or if I take another step, I'm on the route or in the natural area, and Pokemon that are in the wild that are maybe chasing me will follow me into the town, that sort of thing, that could be really cool. If they're able to make that happen and things are just seamless and transitions are natural and they feel the way that they should, this could be a special one. I'll need to see it in action. We did see some gameplay footage in this trailer, but it was, clips of different parts. It wasn't showing a player going from the wild into the city seamlessly. That I would need to see before I make a judgment on that. But the places that we did see looked beautiful. The Pokemon that we saw walking around, wild Pokemon walking the streets, so you can catch a Pikachu in a dark alley if you want to, or if there's one like in the main square of the big town, you can try and engage it. The jury is still out on whether or not we're going to be doing it like we do in Arceus, where we can either choose to stay stealthy and throw Pokeballs and try and surprise it that way, or if we're going to be forced to battle it if we want to catch it every single time. Haven't seen any news on that yet. That has not come out. That will come out, I'm sure, later in the year when more information is given. But if it's a mixture of Arceus, Legends Arceus, and standard time turn-based fighting, kind of like what Arceus does. That to me would be the coolest idea. The fact it would give me the option of not having to battle every single time, which I know is tradition for a core game, but if they wanted to break tradition with anything, that's what I think they should break tradition with. Um, so, but I am excited to see what's going on here. As for the region we will be in, for those who don't play and don't know, all of the regions in Pokemon are modeled after real world places. They are meant to resemble places in the real world. For example, Sun and Moon's Alola is a reference to Hawaii. Sword and Shield's Galar is a reference to the mainland United Kingdom, so like Britain and Scotland and Wales and all that good stuff. While they did not expressly say what the new region's name is in Scarlet and Violet, there are a hefty amount of clues leading us to believe that we are going to the Iberian Peninsula. Now, whether it be Spain by itself or Spain and Portugal, that is not yet known. But that seems to be where the wind is blowing for Scarlet and Violet, thanks to things like oranges and grapes being seen in the live action portions of the trailer, which are fruit like big fruits in Spain. The map of Spain on the wall that you can see as well. The names of the starter Pokemon, Sprigatito and Fuecoco specifically, sound like Spanish names. I argued that they could also be Italian, but I do think now, having really analyzed it a little more, that we will be going to some sort of Spanish-themed region for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which is awesome. I think the more unique regions you can introduce, you have a world's worth of resource material to pull from. So wherever you decide to go, you just have to visit that place a couple of times and make some cities or make some areas based on that place. So I think it's a great approach to choosing a region and then bringing in things from that region's folklore or culture or whatever that would allow it to feel more like the real world area that you are referencing. So what then should we expect when it is released that we are in Spain or the Iberian Peninsula or whatever it is that they're doing? Honestly, other than what we saw, I'm not entirely sure how in depth they're going to get. Like if it is the entire peninsula and Portugal is involved, are we going to go to like the Rock of Gibraltar? Are we going to see something like that? We've already seen some buildings that look like they were in Barcelona, so I imagine that's what one of the cities is going to look like. But it's interesting. It's an interesting approach. It's an interesting idea. I have not had a chance to really dig into like the folklore of the Spanish people and find maybe some creatures that could be mythical or legendaries, or have mythicals or legendaries based off of them, I should say. Or maybe like ideas for other Pokemon, new Pokemon coming to the game. I have not had a chance to look into that yet, but as with most other games, I think it's where they're going to pull their source material from. As far as Pokemon I would like to see get new forms, existing Pokemon I'd like to see get new forms, I think that this is a perfect opportunity to bring back one of the most underrated Pokemon, in my opinion, and that is Tropius, a grass-flying type dinosaur. Kind of already looks like a palm tree, not as much as a Alolan Executor, but it does. So if they wanted to give Tropius a new look in this region, or even an evolution, like they did with a couple in Sword and Shield, where a pre-existing Pokemon got new evolutions. Arceus did it too with Scyther to Cleavor. I'd be down for that. I would absolutely be down for that. I think I love that way of getting older Pokemon back into the mix by giving them regional variants that you can't find in any other area of the Pokemon's world. I've always loved that idea. I love the idea that they like basically revived interest in these Pokemon, especially like Pokemon you would not expect them to be able to do that with, like with Rattata and Raticate, the original like uh, poopy beginners Pokemon. The Alola region gave them the Dark type, and all of a sudden they're, starting to be a little bit more viable in Endgame and stuff like that. It was a cool addition to the game. Meowth, so nice. They've done it twice. The Alolan region is like a gray cat that evolves into a Persian with big cheeks. And then Meowth from Galar is like a Viking that turns into Berserker, which is super cool. I love that. I love that they do it, and I hope they continue to do it in Spain. I don't know, or in whatever the name of the region is, the Spanish region. As for other Pokemon that could get the glow up, Tentacool and Tentacruel might get a glow up here just because Spain and Portugal, if it's the whole peninsula, is on the ocean, is on the sea. So there's plenty of octopus there. I don't know if there's one in particular that they could, like one species that lives near there that they could take source material from, but I feel like that would be a good choice. Also, I keep going to like sea creatures like Staryu and Starmie, Goldeen and Steaking. I know there are better options. That's just what I keep going back to. Again, I'm not very familiar with the lore of Spain or the folklore of Spain as much as I would like to be. I'll have to do a little more research on that. But it's exciting. A new Pokemon game is always exciting. I am very excited for it. I'm interested to see how this plays out. Looking forward to more information. Comes out late 2022, so probably Pokemon games like to inhabit the November week before Black Friday sort of time slot. As far as when it will release, I expect the same thing to happen here. I don't believe it will go into January of 2023 like Legends Arceus did. They did explicitly say late 2022, but if they're talking about fiscal year, that actually goes all the way to March. But if I had to pick, I would say November 18th, a week before Black Friday. They love releasing games then. That would be my choice for when this game comes out. But Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, generation number 9, taking us to what seems to be a Spain-inspired region. Very much looking forward to it, and looking forward to meeting all the new creatures that we will get to see as they are announced. Moving into the last segment of the show, we're going to go run down everything coming out this month. In the month of March. It is a very extensive list, more so than you would think, especially coming off of the absolute banger that was February. So stick around and you'll learn more about March 2022. All right, welcome back to Cheesesteaks and Controllers, episode number 86. Rolling right along here. I want to apologize for my raspy voice. My children went to a birthday party on Sunday, and the weakened immune systems that my younger daughter has, thanks to spending more than half her life in pandemic so far. She was just about a year and a half when things started to shut down, or just getting to a year and a half when things started to shut down. She brought home a nasty cold for everyone, so I sound like I am talking through a towel, and I'm sorry about that. Blame my daughter. It's your fault. Go sit in the corner. No, I'm only kidding. It happens. But that's why I sound like this. So I'm sorry in advance for the final segment, and I'm sorry for the previous segment when it really started to get raspy and bad. I have water here. Doesn't seem to be helping, so I'm just going to charge on and get through the month of March in video games. We had quite the February in March when it comes to video game releases. And in order to accentuate that fact, let me give you some statistics from the fantasycritic.games website. Fantasy Critic, I talked to the owner of the website a little while ago about his fantasy video game industry game, where you create a studio, you draft games that are coming out, and you gain points based on how the games score on OpenCritic. So just give you an idea of some of the scores that we have had already in the year 2022, January and February. Elden Ring, start with the big one. Why not? Elden Ring's OpenCritic score right now is 96 out of 155 critics' reviews for a total of 32 points. That's incredible. Total War, Warhammer 3, also came out in February, 87 for 17 points. Horizon Forbidden West, 88 for 18 points. Gran Turismo 7, also 88. What else have we had so far? King of Fighters, even the lower tier, I don't want to say lower tier, but like games that did not have as much hype behind them, still scoring well. 81 for King of Fighters 15, 80 for Sifu, the indie karate game, which if indie martial arts game, which if you have not played that game, it is punishing, but in the best way. It's a lot of fun. We also have Crusader Kings 3 Royal Court, which was a DLC, 82. Destiny 2, The Witch Queen, 90 average. It has been a heck of a year for games so far. The aforementioned Pokemon Legends Arceus, 84. I didn't want to forget that one. Triangle Strategy, 81 on the Switch. Windjammers 2, 77. Dying Light 2, 76. We have had very little in the clunker department so far in 2022. Now, a lot of games have come out and maybe weren't drafted, or maybe I'm just forgetting about them on here. But it's been quite a 2 months, and March is not showing any signs of slowing down. So let's go through some of the big ones here. March the 1st, we had Far Changing Tides, big indie title there from Okomotive and Frontier Developments. Shadow Warrior 3 from Flying Wild Hog and Devolver Digital apparently is giving people Doom Eternal vibes. Always a good comparison to have there. Babylon's Fall by Platinum and Square Enix is out today, March the 3rd. Apparently not faring very well. I would tread lightly with that one, perhaps. Not quite the hit that Platinum Games was hoping for. Tomorrow, March the 4th, as you're listening to this podcast, you'll also get Gran Turismo 7 and Triangle Strategy launching. That's very exciting for both of those games. Racing game. Apparently, Gran Turismo 7 is an excellent racing game, but it may lose people who are not into cars, right? Or haven't been following Gran Turismo for a while. So if you love it, then you love it. Like it's good. Just right up your alley. It's more that you want. It's fantastic stuff. But for newer or more casual racing fans, it might not be exactly what you want. I haven't reviewed it myself. I have not actually played it. I cannot make an opinion. I'm just basing it on reviews that I have read. So if you're excited for Gran Turismo 7, it sounds like you're going to have a good old time. But if you've never played a racing game before, that might not be the first one to get into, based on reviews that are out there at the moment. And the Triangle Strategy for the tactical role-playing crowd, the Final Fantasy Tactics style crowd, HD 2D, beautiful looking game, and apparently a very good story as well. Moving into next week on the 10th, we have another action-adventure indie game from a team called Lienzo, that's Aztec Forgotten Gods. Chocobo GP, which is a remake of a PlayStation 1 kart racer featuring Final Fantasy characters. Doesn't sound like it's going to blow the world away, but it sounds like it might be a little bit of fun, a little bit of a good time for some cheap, cheap kart racing fun. Why the heck not? WWE 2K22, which suddenly has a very big spotlight on it all of a sudden. Some of the things that they are adding might be very good for the game. We'll have to see. I hope it's good. I really do. I hope 2K22 can bounce back after an abysmal 2020 and taking 2K21 off. They need it. They absolutely need it. Getting into March 15th, the halfway point of the year, Grand Theft Auto 5 makes its debut on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. That game is still going tremendously strong. Honestly, people are excited for a new game, and Rockstar has started hinting that they're making it, but I would not expect that anytime soon because Grand Theft Auto 5 is still selling. They don't have to make it. There doesn't have to be a rush. They don't have to crunch because they're still fine. Everything's fine. Grand Theft Auto Online and Grand Theft Auto 5 just will not die. Also coming out March 15th for a much lower tier, but one that I'm excited about because I love fighting games. That's Phantom Breaker Omnia, an anime fighter coming out from Rocket Panda Games and Game Loop and Mages. So that should be fun too. March 16th, an interesting game coming out that day. An indie darling that we have known about for a very, very long time, emulating the best of retro Zelda from the NES and Super NES days, finally comes out on Xbox and PC. That being Tunic, published by Finji, developed by Andrew Schuldice, by himself, basically. He had some help, but he was the lead developer on this game. Looks like a charming little adventure. Might have a little bit of teeth to it as far as difficulty is concerned. Like I said, it plays like an old Zelda game. So if you like those classic sort of adventures, that could be right up your alley. The next week, we have Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, which is Square Enix's take on the Souls genre, made by Team Ninja, who also made Neo. So I really don't know what to think about this one. Every time I see things on it, it gets more and more ridiculous. But I genuinely think this might surprise people. It does not bode well for it that it's coming out less than a month after Elden Ring, which many people that I'm talking to, considering it their favorite game ever made, let alone the best Souls game ever made. So it's in a bad spot release-wise. If I were Square Enix, I'd bump it another month just to give Elden Ring a little bit more time to breathe, considering how big that game is. But hey, if they want to press on, go for it. I'll definitely give it a shot. Why the heck not? March 22nd, Rune Factory 5 for the simulation role-playing fans. March 25th is actually a triple threat of games on March 25th. Pretty high-profile day there. And 3 really completely different experiences in these 3 games. You have Ghostwire Tokyo, the horror-themed action-adventure from Tango Gameworks, who made Shadows of the Damned and things like that for Bethesda. You have Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which is the Super Kirby Odyssey, the Kirby open-world adventure, where he can, swallow an entire car or whatever it is that he can do that we've seen in the trailer so far. And then finally, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which is basically Borderlands, but in a D&D setting, where the Dungeon Master is just screwing with the players throughout every part of the adventure. Everything I see of that looks nuts. I really like the Tiny Tina character, and it's cool that she gets a chance to shine. So I actually have high hopes for that one, too. I really think that could be a surprise hit in the month of March. And then the last 3 days of the month, we have Crusader Kings 3 making its way to console. We have Death Stranding Director's Cut on PC. And then we have Weird West, another indie darling from Devolver Digital, developed by Wolf Eye Studios, that was first announced at the Game Awards in 2020, I want to say. Maybe 2019. Isometric kind of adventure shooter game, action role-playing. Definitely looks fun as well. So the year keeps chugging along. It really has been a front-ended year so far, but it just keeps going and shows no signs of stopping. What we know coming in the second quarter already is pretty big. Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga finally coming. Nintendo Switch Sports, I was looking at the wrong line there, is coming finally. Evil Dead the game sees the light of day. Forspoken, another big Square Enix title. And then we're into June, where Capcom Fighting Collection, Mario Strikers Battle League, and then whatever is announced at whatever is happening for E3 or whatever we're going to be talking about then. So it's a good time to be a gamer, good time to lose yourself in some games for a while, especially if you're playing something like Elden Ring. The first 2 months of the year have been insanely good, and I do not see that stopping anytime soon. With that is the end of Cheesesteaks and Controllers, episode number 86, presented by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, iHeartRadio. You can listen to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, the iHeartRadio app, foxphlgambler.com, and wherever you get your podcasts. Honestly, there are a lot of places to listen to it, and the fact that you are listening to these words at the end of the episode makes me very happy. The fact that you stuck around till the end and you wanted to hear everything I had to say, even with this voice that I'm rocking right now about the world of esports and gaming. I'm happy that I'm able to entertain you. I am happy that I'm able to hopefully educate you or inform you on some things. And I hope that I've even given you some things to look up, or look forward to, I should say, to get into as we get through the rest of 2022. I will be here next week for episode number 87. May do a themed episode on that. I will noodle that and get back to you next week. But until then, I hope you have a stellar weekend. I hope you have a just as stellar week right behind it. And I will be back again next week for episode 87 and all of the great things happening in the world of esports and video games. Until then, thank you for listening and goodbye.